Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here for today's Business at its Best. I'm Dawn Johnson, the Vice President of Partner Services here at the Bowling Green Area Chamber, and I'm really excited to have everyone on this call. Today, we will be having a Digital Transformation Simplified, presented by Rob Wilson and Keller Schroeder, or with Keller Schroeder, excuse me. But before we get started, there are a few housekeeping rules that I want to go over. Today's session is being recorded, so please keep your mics on mute for the duration of the presentation unless we open it up for a full chat. If you do have questions during the presentation, please submit those via the chat box. Aaron just gave you a sample of the test for the chat box, and we will have questions and answers at the end of the presentation, and we'll read all the submissions and go over the answers with the presenters. And so, but before we get started, also, we have our sponsor, Graves Gilbert Clinic. As you know, we can't do these events without our sponsors, so we thank Graves Gilbert Clinic, and Aaron's got a video for us.
At Graves Gilbert Clinic, their top priority is the health and safety of their patients, employees, and visitors. And because of that, Graves Gilbert Clinic is now offering telehealth visits, which allows patients and physicians to use an app to communicate via video chat. Any patient who would like to schedule a telehealth appointment is encouraged to call their Graves Gilbert Clinic physician's office directly, or call the Graves Gilbert Clinic telehealth hotline at 270-746-5790.
Thank you, Aaron, and thank you again to Graves Gilbert Clinic. We really appreciate their sponsorship and collaboration. Now, with that, I want to introduce today's speaker, Rob Wilson. Rob Wilson is a business and technology consultant with Keller Schroeder, a technology company in the performance improvement business. He resides in Bowling Green with his wife, Karen, serving clients in the Southeast U.S. in digital transformation, process improvement, and data strategy projects. We appreciate you being here with us today, Rob. So I'm going to let you go ahead and take it.
Thanks, Dawn. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate you all being here. I've been to a number of these events, and they've all been really great. And so the pressure is on to do a great job for you all. And I'm assuming that everyone came today because they're curious about this term, digital transformation. And I know a lot of people have heard this term before, right? It's been around for a long time. So by a show of hands, for those of you who are on camera, how many people have heard the term digital transformation? And how many people that have heard it still wonder, what the heck does this mean? Yeah, same here. And so that is where we started out with this. Our hope was to, a couple years ago, we set out on a mission to simplify, maybe even demystify the term digital transformation, because it does mean so many things to different people. And so we're going to talk about that today. I'll show you the agenda here, and we'll go through this really quickly. But we're going to give you a fresh perspective on the term digital transformation, teach you how to cultivate a culture of transformation at your organization, learn to identify transformational initiatives, and to prioritize those projects as a result of what you identified, and then give you access to tools to help you get started and maybe even connect you with like-minded professionals that are interested in doing the same. So I will say that this is something that is important to businesses of all sizes, and if it's ever been magnified, I'll just say it has never been magnified as much as it has during the pandemic. If you think about the businesses that weren't able to operate normally, the businesses that had to close their doors, some of them made pivots and did really well. Obviously, some industries were impacted more than others, but we like to think that there are some core things that a lot of businesses could have done to make it better, I guess, through the disruption that we just had. And some of them, even just because they already had a focus on digital transformation, were better prepared for it. So we define digital transformation as the commitment of an organization to consistently improve business performance through the use of technology as a strategic asset. And so the bold there is not by accident. We think it does need to be consistent, and it's all about improving your performance. It's not about the technology, right? So it's not a one-time event. It is more like a continuous improvement methodology. So if you're a lean person like I am, my team, we really focus on the lean principles. If you're a Kaizen Six Sigma practitioner, then this should be familiar to you. It's not a project with a typical beginning and end like a typical project has, but it's a mindset rather. And so if we break it down a little bit more, it's about more than just changing a process. You're not just taking something and rewiring it and then calling it additional transformation. I'll give you a perfect example of that here in a second. But it's more of a change in the way that you think or behave that actually drives that process change. It's a change in culture, if you will, that compels individuals to improve. So as everyone throughout your organization begins to think of how can I use technology as a strategic asset to do my job better, then they're going to think about ways that they could leverage tech to perform better. And it's also an opportunity to transform your business. So if your business has been a little bit slow in the uptake, I promise you, if our emails and phone calls that are coming in are any indication, businesses are starting to think about this a lot more. And it's a growth mindset. So if anybody has read Dr. Carol Dweck's book on mindset, there's a lot of talk about the growth mindset in there. And digital transformation aligns with her philosophy really well. It's about training your mind to think about ways to continuously improve and not have a fixed mindset. So it's easy, right? You have a stack of papers, and we all know the best way to take this picture here and launch on a digital transformation, right? We've all seen this before. All you need to do is add a scanner, and then we've got progress. And we've seen this a lot of times. And how many think that this is the best way to go? And that this is the end of your digital transformation? Not ideal. Because what you've done is you've taken that stack of paper and basically moved it. You've transported it from one desktop to another. And so I would submit to you today that process matters. It's not just about digitizing things, but digital transformation is a lot more about what happens before and after the digitization happens. So if you digitize clutter, you're simply moving the problem from the physical world to a digital one. And I know if you're like most of the people that I talk to, you've experienced this. Just because you have something online, sometimes it can be worse. Now you have multiple versions of the truth. Where do I go to find this information? And how do I know that it's correct? And so there's a process that needs to be built around this, and you'll hear me talk about process a lot. Automating chaos can lead to, unfortunately, exponentially more bad data. And so if you have systems that aren't properly designed, if you have data that is not accurate in applications that are allowing bad data to get into your systems, and you automate that, it's just going to cause even more confusion. And we want to avoid that as much as we can. And customizing software incorrectly can cause extra work and expense. Just because you're upgrading doesn't always mean you're improving. And sometimes making improvements, so-called improvements, upgrading to the latest and greatest is actually a step backwards for your business. So there's a smart way to go about it. And again, it all begins with process. Process matters. And then integrating with patchwork solutions can bring additional expense and incompatibilities. So there's been this promise of low-code solutions and drag and drop things where folks can go out and subscribe to an online software such as QuickBooks Online, for an example, and Salesforce, a lot of other great tools that are out there, but then they're disconnected. So you can subscribe to these middleware tools that will connect them for you with a little bit of drag and drop. And you can get a lot of the way there, but not all the way there that way. So I call that a patchwork solution. And we would submit that it's best to look at going with an ecosystem. Like if you're a Salesforce shop, do as much as you can within Salesforce. If you're a Microsoft shop, do as much as you can within Microsoft or Oracle, rather than incurring the additional overhead of some of these others. So just to put things into perspective, I know we're a technology company. Um, Keller Schroeder, I should say, has been in business since 1978, headquartered in Evansville, Indiana. And we started out as an IBM partner, and custom applications were a big part of what we did then. And we've since expanded into other areas. We are infrastructure now. We have staffing services, so placement, contractor search, and things like that. And then we also have a data strategy group. So when we expanded into the Southeast, I made my home in Bowling Green. My wife works at a local plant as a nurse in their on-site clinic. We love it. We've been here 2.5 years. Bowling Green is a great home to us. We certainly hope to retire here and get more involved in the community. That all said, we realize as a technology company, despite the growth of our business, any good technologist will tell you it's not about the tech. Any good consultant will tell you it's about the business. It's about your business. And so when we look at our clients, when we look at our prospects, we see people, processes, and information as being the pillars of any organization. Without any of the three, you're at a disadvantage. You've got to have good people for sure. You've got to have good information. You're not going to make great decisions if you don't have great information. And yet, if you don't have good processes in place, then your people aren't going to know what to do. You're going to have turnover. You're going to have attrition through retirement and things like that. And if you don't have well-defined processes already thought out and implemented, then you can have good people that are going to not perform at the level that they would want to because they're not exactly sure what they're supposed to be doing. And so getting that information to the people through process is really where we see the role of technology being. And so technology is simply an enabler for the three pillars. It's not a pillar. A lot of technology companies will tell you digital transformation is about going to the cloud. It's about all these different things. It's about IoT and Internet of Things and industrial type stuff. With us, it's simply helping your people perform better through enabling them with processes and information. And yet, we find that most people that we work with, they believe that their business does a great job, and it's very true in most cases, of B2B, business to business type of digital transformation. So if you're trading with a partner through EDI or some other means, and all these other ways that you're conducting business, your first priority oftentimes is to think of your customers, and then to receive and make payments to your vendors and your partners. And so all of these things are very important, and they often take the spotlight. And then your organization comes second, right? The cobbler's kids. And so, you focus on your customers, your external relationships, and then you worry about, okay, I'll take care of where my team needs to go to find the information they need, or the people in my organization, and then my team, and then myself. And the problem with this, working from the outside in, is that people don't really get the opportunity then to internalize what digital transformation is. And when we're talking about a cultural or a behavior change like this, each person really needs to learn to apply it, much like a continuous improvement type strategy, where everyone, even on the plant floor, is looking for opportunities at the Gemba, the place of the origin of the problem, to identify an opportunity for improvement and to eliminate waste. And that's exactly the way we see this. So whenever everyone starts to internalize this personally and look at ways, we were joking earlier when everyone came on about clutter on our desk. And, it's very true. If I'm a person who doesn't do a good job of organizing my notes, organizing my own desktop, then that is a bad example I'm setting for my team. If I'm not digitizing and tracking and automating my functions, my business functions, my team's going to learn bad habits from that, my organization. And so even though we rate ourselves, maybe every company individually, as doing well organization wide, if you talk to the individuals, they say, well, I don't do great. There's a disconnect there, right? So it takes an organization of people who are thinking this way and really, in my mind, for an organization to be able to say that we think this way. So that comes with training and things like that. So the usual suspects of where we start. Employee self-service. So an intranet, where do your employees go? If you were to ask your employees, where do you go if you need to request a day off? Where do you go if you need to look up a benefit and all of these things? Do they know where to go? Do they know where that one version of the truth is? How much of this information or these transactions, requests and things can they make online and without having to email someone? So, living in your inbox is not a digital transformation. That's not a great process. That's where tasks go to die. If you send someone something in an email, please make sure it's not a high priority item, because you never know where it'll get buried. So employee self-service on an intranet, customer self-service on an extranet. So some of the very first things we did, this has been going on since the 90s. We would say that we've been doing digital transformation at Keller Schroeder really since 1978. And with the advent of the web, one of the first things our customers started asking for was, we want our customers to be able to log in and see when, place an order and see when it'll be shipped and all this stuff. And so that's been going on for a long time, and it's not, it's very uncommon for a company to not have that now, and yet we run into companies all the time that are still not there yet. Onboarding new employees, this has been definitely exaggerated throughout the pandemic. Everyone working remote, you had to figure out new ways to onboard people in remote ways. So a lot of our projects have been around online training, setting up learning management systems, so that whenever employees were onboarded, they could learn. And even externally facing people that do training for a business, needing a platform to train their customers. Account setup, if you didn't know, if you're a company that hires and terminates often, or if you're in major growth mode and you're just continuously hiring, congratulations, and that's great. You can automate things in the account setup process. So, the digital transformation would entail, taking the new employees, training them, setting up all their accounts in their email, the directory, and all these things, so that you don't have to do all that by hand and wonder where these things are. So you see the theme here. It's all about knowing where to go. It's about knowing the status of information, accounts payable and receivable, so many projects around that, automating payments and things, so that you don't have to do all that manually cut checks. So it's about knowing and doing as efficiently as possible. So think digital by default. You have to change your mindset to think digital by default. So traditionally we might say, why would we automate that if it only takes Jim 4 hours a week to do it? Over time, this really adds up. You add in context switching, and 4 hours a week of Jim's time is 4 hours per week is going to cost weeks of lost time for Jim shifting gears to do something manually that he could have done something, in an automated way. So the transform mindset would say, why is Jim still spending 4 hours a week on this when we could just automate it? And see the difference there? And so we often lead our decisions with our pocketbook, but we really need to be thinking, making our decisions based on a look towards the future and making sure that we can handle the next disruption. So, you might traditionally say, if we experience enough growth, we'll automate that. But if you think about it, if you transform your mind to a digital mindset, you're going to say, we need to automate that so we can grow. And finally, my customers don't care about that. I'll cross that bridge when I get there. The better way to think about that is, although it's not a priority for us right now, we need to future-proof our business and prepare for the next disruption, whatever it may be. And very true that we don't know what the next disruption is going to be, but we do know there's going to be one. In Nashville, for example, last year, the tornado was followed by the pandemic, followed by riots and so forth. And now we've got gas shortages everywhere. I mean, it's never ending. And so Kathy, my VP who's on the call today, we recently did a podcast, and we call this continuous transformation. And that's really what this is. When you combine digital transformation with continuous improvement, we call that continuous transformation. And the idea is that you're always prepared for whatever next could be, or as prepared as possible, so that whenever it happens, you can adjust quickly. And so, again, it starts with process, right? Technology helps, but it starts with your process. So, the goal of digital transformation is to deal with inefficiencies in the lean systems. They call that waste. We're trying to eliminate waste, provide insights. So, some of our tenants, we talk about, you know, the metrics that you need to track and the information that you learn from them. You're going to spur innovation. You're going to manage disruption better, become easier to work with for your customers, your partners, be better prepared for growth, adapt to continuous change. And the results of this are corporate-wide performance improvement. You get a competitive advantage as a byproduct. You're better prepared, perhaps, than some of your competitors are. A compelling customer experience. There's so many cases of services I used and you used during the pandemic that just magnified the customer experience problems that we have, both locally and nationally. I mean, order a piece of furniture and it takes 6 months and you have no idea where it is, but they won't let you cancel online and all these things. You know, you do this right, you prepare for it with a digital transformation, you're going to be ready for those things. And that results in a reputation for excellence, stability and uncertainty, and sustainability. You're gonna last a whole lot longer as a company. So think about what the disruption was like for you. Could you still work? Could your employees still work? Could you work as usual? You know, did you still receive orders and ship products like you normally do? Could you still order goods and pay vendors, receive payment without going into the office? How much were you able to accomplish working from wherever you were? And so our process for building a use case for digital transformation all begins with quantifying the business value. So you take a look at what does this mean to my business both now and in the future, and kind of weigh in on the priority. So we give you with some tools that we have and that we make available for free. It's just a way that you can rate your initiatives based on a business value and quantify that, and also then quantify the viability of the initiative. And so we're going to put this in a quadrant. And you know, how does the initiative have is it viable for success? And if so, we're going to plot those after we align them, and that's part of the scoring system that we have. We align those with your mission and your strategic objectives. So if your objective is to grow, if your objective is to be, you know, raise your customer service score to a certain amount, then we want to factor that in whenever we score the digital transformation initiatives. And again, we have worksheets available on our website that I'll point you to in a little bit. But whenever you score these, you know, anything that's a 10 in both areas, viability and business value, you're going to want to focus on those first, because they're the ones that have a higher chance for success, and they're going to add the most value. I mean, it makes sense that you'll want to start there. Things that are low viability but high business value, you want to think critically. What are my barriers to viability? Maybe it's a new expertise I need to bring in-house or something like that. And then create teams to solve that. And then focus on getting those initiatives taken care of so you can add that business value that you need. Things that are high viability, those are very tempting even if they don't have low business value. If it's easy to do something, you're going to think, man, I'm going to go ahead and do that because it's easy. But you should be focusing your attention rather on things that offer a higher business value. So you can come back and revisit these later and see if maybe the business value may have changed because something else maybe was finished that made it more attractive at that point. And anything that is low viability and low business value, you'll want to eliminate that from consideration. Just don't spend your time on it. There's no need in pursuing it. So our process is about scoring those digital transformation initiatives, and then looking at them through, and I should say continuous improvement initiatives really, but then looking at them through a digital lens, through these, what we call our tenets of digital transformation. And so these are 12 tenets that we've established, things that we've done since 1978. Most companies like us have done these things since 1978, as has your organization. But I guarantee you, when you look through the examples that are in our framework, you'll find some things that maybe you hadn't considered before. And so I'm just going to touch on a couple of these real quick. Digitization, as we mentioned earlier. Digitization in itself is not a digital transformation. It's just the starting point. You know, you got to get the information into a digital form, but then what am I going to do with it? So it's the process that matters. So ask yourself, what forms are our staff or customers still filling out on paper? How much time is spent doing that? And then rekeying that. Anything that is written down then has to be rekeyed into a system if it's going to be tracked. How much data have we lost? So it's not just about lost time and expense, but lost opportunity. Who knows what existed on paper that never made it into the system. So some examples of solutions that probably you've done in-house. Automation is another one. Eliminate the labor-intensive and error-prone processes. Human capital is the most expensive thing in an organization. It can be inefficient and volatile. And even if you have that person that is a go-getter and gets everything done, they're not going to live forever, right? So automate those processes. And then some questions to ask yourself. This is what we call our automation maturity model. And this is the way things were prior to digital transformation. Everything was done by hand, right? You received an invoice, you scanned it, perhaps you captured the values into a system, recorded it in your books, sent the payment was approved and prepared, and then so forth. So now we came in, the last couple of decades, we got into scanning things, and then through open systems, we're able to send payments online through business-to-business transactions and all that. And we're really at this space right now, this V3, where people are starting to look at things like RPA, robotic process automation. So someone doesn't have to necessarily type in something that was on paper. If you scan it and someone is not sure what to do with it, you don't have to have someone even verify the information on there. The robots can figure out what those values need to be. And the dream is to get even further, ultimately down here, to where we introduce AI, artificial intelligence, into the process, where machines can make the information, the decisions for us on which account should this be recorded to in the ledger, based on the type of transaction that it is, and quality checking it. Right now it's a very labor-intensive process for someone to do that. Sometimes it's random. You don't have the opportunity to check everything, so you spot check things. But with the use of AI, you'll be able to make sure that you come to a really high percentage score through allowing robots to learn from humans, not to replace them, but to kind of learn to think like they do. And lastly, metricization. This may be a word that we made up. We're still not sure about that. But the idea is what gets measured gets done, and what's not quantified can't be measured. So ask yourself, whenever my stakeholder, whenever my boss, my CEO comes to me and says, what about this? What about that? And you have to say, I don't know. Then there's a problem, So if it's important to your executives, then it should be important to you. And so knowing what the information is and capturing that and making it available is very important. So a recent example, this is one of the clients that we have in Nashville. Real quickly, I'll just say that they did a lot of travel. They taught things in person. They did a lot of work for the military. They did a lot of work for corporations and universities on the concept of financial wellness. And they were booked 49 weeks out of the year, and their class sizes were about 25. They limited the class size usually because of space and because that was the right size for them. So when the pandemic hit, they said, look, we got to find a way both to stay in business and to be able to scale as a byproduct of this. So a learning management system, and we put together for them. We captured, one of the hardest things to capture was their personality online, but we did that. We captured their tools. We created, online calculators from worksheets, automated reporting and surveys. And now we're getting into the stages of automating customer onboarding and accepting online payments for B2C. All these things that are part of the roadmap that are going to happen this year. And the result of that is their very first online customer that came on late last year had 30 times the number of students that they were able to do in a typical in-person class. So the pandemic, as they say, we don't wish it on anyone. It actually caused us to take a pause and reflect and to think about how we could do things better. And perhaps your business is there too, thinking about, how could I do better so that this doesn't happen to me? And honestly, that's what this is all about. And so we want to have a conversation with you about that. We think the next steps are to think digital by default. So change your mindset, think digital by default, think critically about your systems and your processes. How could they be improved? Become a transformation agent. So regardless of your role in your organization, you can identify areas for improvement and start thinking about how can I escalate this and improve this process through the use of technology. Use our tenants that I'll make the link available for you here to identify the opportunities for transformation, and then build out a portfolio of business cases for these initiatives. So you have a list of ways that you could improve, all ready to go. Prioritize them based on our tools, and then repeat this regularly and consistently. Again, it's a continuous improvement project, and just make it a big part of your culture. So these are the resources I talked about. If you go to kellerschroeder.com/DXF, that stands for Digital Transformation Framework. Everything that you need is right there. There's a place that you can download a digital transformation framework. I'm very laid back. I'm not going to sell to you. I'm actually not a salesperson. For those of you who don't know, I'm a consultant, and I meet with people all the time just to say, hey, how can I help you and your business to be together and be better? And so low key, if you want to grab coffee, get on the phone and talk, run ideas by me. My hope is simply that one day down the road, if you have a need, as a technology need, where you're looking for ways to bring in a partner and help, that you'll think of us. As simple as that. You'll never get a sales pitch from me. We do offer workshops and training on digital transformation. There's a good book that we did not write, but we love it. Our team has gone through it. It's called Clarity First by a lean management practitioner called Karen Martin. And she does a great job talking about the role of clarity in an organization and how that brings about continuous improvement. And then if you're interested in a free digital transformation assessment based on the tenets that we've talked about here, or even meeting like-minded people locally in Bowling Green, we've been kicking around the idea of maybe getting a group together on Meetup of just business owners and other professionals at organizations just to talk about ideas. That's it. Ways that we can improve. We believe if everybody collectively, I don't have to tell you how I feel about Bowling Green. Hopefully you heard that earlier. It's my home. I love it. I want to see Bowling Green continue to thrive. I love manufacturing projects. Anytime I get an opportunity to work on manufacturing, I've been doing that for almost 28 years with Keller Schroeder, and it's where I feel comfortable. And want to talk with plant managers and office folks about how we can improve processes in our own city. And so that's it in a nutshell. Again, my contact information is here. Rob Wilson. I'm the digital transformation consultant, the principal consultant for the Southeast region. So you'll catch me most of the time burning the road between Bowling Green and Nashville. I try to stay in Bowling Green as much as I can.
And attending chamber events.
Attending chamber events, y'all. If you don't get out and do the chamber events, you must get out and do the chamber events.
Ooh, couldn't ask for that better testimony.
Great way to meet folks.
Are there any questions? I don't see anything in the chat, but I think we're a small enough group that if you want to open up your mic and ask a question, feel free to.
And I went through very fast so I could save time for questions. So hopefully I didn't go through too fast, but
I actually have one. So okay. This adds a lot of clarity for me for digital transformation, a lot to understand the full scope of it. So we just recently brought on a marketing automation tool. Do you deal with marketing automation, or what kind of marketing automation tools do you recommend?
So a lot of times your marketing agencies will recommend those because they found platforms that they recommend. So some of the firms that are here in town will recommend those. Now, a lot of our enterprise clients will work with Salesforce,
Okay.
and HubSpot is another popular one that we've seen people use.
Okay.
And so we happen to use our marketing team internally uses Infusionsoft for that marketing automation. But what you get there, as you know, is just the way, just like with Constant Contact and some of the others, to send out the emails, see who's opened them, invite to events and things like that. A lot of them have the same functionality. And so it comes down to cost in a lot of cases, right? If you're looking for one that is combined as a customer relationship management tool, then Infusionsoft, for example, is not for you. HubSpot, maybe it does both. Salesforce definitely does both, but
HubSpot is a little pricey. It can
it
be.
is, yeah, and Salesforce can be as well. The benefits of a Salesforce or something like that is that, it can be used for many other things. So some organizations already have it and they're writing internal applications on it and workflows. And so it is just extension of that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'm happy to sit down and talk with you about it, help you weigh your options. We run everything really past these tenants that we have and say, is there an opportunity for growth here? And software selection is definitely one of the parts of what we do there in the tenants.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
But you're on the right track. I think anytime you can, automate like importing spreadsheets, contacts and things like that in a spreadsheet and automating a registration process and things. And for an example, when everyone registered for this meeting today, they immediately got an email with a Zoom link, right?
Yep.
There's an example of digital transformation. Thankfully, someone at the chamber didn't have to key all that information into every email and respond. That's great.
Yeah, that is great. Anybody else have questions? I know it can be a little overwhelming and there's a lot of components to it, but it's
I can ask some
imperative.
questions.
You used a phrase about being ready for the future, whatever happens, and that if nothing else that we've learned from the last year, that we have to be ready for being able to pivot and change in order to grow.
We do. That is a fact. Think about some of the simple things like, ordering your meals. If you wanted to eat out, you had to order your meal on a mobile app and go pick it up. So thankful for the restaurants that took advantage of that at the beginning of the pandemic, and the grocery stores that caught on and said, hey, come here and pick this up. Because whenever there was so much uncertainty in the beginning and no vaccines and everything else, you didn't want to be in a crowded Kroger with 1,000 people. So very thankful for the people that took, that had the resources to get that done, and the foresight so that we could continue to eat, right?
Yeah.
So in your organizations, what are you all thinking about? What are the labor intensive things right now? What are you still doing on paper that could be automated? How many people fill it in HR? That's usually the place, the paper applications and all the forms, things that need to be signed digitally and all that. Anyone feeling that pain?
So it's really interesting that this is all happening right now because I'm currently in the process of refiling.
There you go.
And I was doing that simultaneously while listening to you. And so that is something that we are doing right now.
So my presentation was so boring it caused you to
no,
start filing as a distraction. Oh, well, no, I'm kidding.
No, not boring at all. Just a lot.
I'm teasing.
So yeah, no, I totally get where you're coming from. So
yes.
My boss and I were just talking about possibly doing something like this as a transition.
Absolutely. It's great. And think about, where you're going to put that information, how you're going to access it, all the things that you need to think through, once you do have it scanned. But great example, Carly. Appreciate you joining.
Anybody else doing anything to digitally transform your organization or thinking about it? Or successfully done it, maybe?
Just switched over. It's Kinsey. We just switched over to Bamboo HR to automate some of our HR stuff for Jessup Power Washing, and are currently looking into a new CRM to handle some of the automation of our sales process.
That's great. Awesome. And so you'll, once you have both of those systems in place, that's where our tenet of integration comes into play. We didn't invent integration, but it's the tenet that one of the tenets of our transformation process. And it's just, how can I make these things talk to each other, so that the pressure washer system doesn't have to, you don't have to rekey things into your CRM and vice versa. So where can we, share data between them and save that time and expense of a person having to do that?
Definitely.
Any other questions or comments?
Come in. Did you leave?
Oh, I don't think they're talking to us.
Oh,
Yeah, but
Well, I just want to say, it's just a lot to process. Because there's a lot of ways we could look at it here at Gerald Printing with training for 7 locations that we still go do in person. And trying to get, we've got kind of a proprietary software called PrintSmith that is our management software, and trying to get it to talk to something like along the lines of, say the chamber had regular forms that they ordered from us where they could go online and just order it, but have that be able to talk to our kind of proprietary software that we have. So I guess I don't have a lot of questions because there's just a lot to think about. But
yeah,
Mhm.
that's a great point.
the presentation has caused me to start to think for sure. So
Good. Appreciate the comments, Randy. And it, we talk about modernization in there, and so many companies, ourselves included, we still have remnants of some old systems around that were proprietary, and face the same challenges most larger organizations do, small, medium, and small even. But especially, even when you were cutting edge, maybe when you started out with this new software, it didn't get touched for so many years because it was just reliable, right? And so now it doesn't talk to some of the newer open systems. And that's where the concept of modernization comes in. And you kind of look at, what are the things that we are missing, and then how can we tackle just those things. It's not always a rip and replace. We definitely, as a company and myself as an individual, I don't believe in upgrading just for the sake of having. I've seen so many bad decisions made that way. Someone on the golf course says to a CEO, we moved to Oracle and it's the best thing we ever did. So all of a sudden now, Mr. CEO or Mrs. CEO wants to go to Oracle. And it was a mistake. They get so far into it and have to cut bait. And so many dollars too late just to stay on the system they're already on. So whenever you can salvage what you have and modernize it, that sometimes is the best way to go.
yeah.
Especially if it's a good, reliable system.
Awesome.
I do have one more question.
Okay.
And I may have missed this. Now, do you all do just the consulting, or do you guys actually build custom systems for companies to help with that automation?
Oh, great question. I appreciate you asking that, Kinsey. We're both, and that's, I think, one of the things that's unique about us is that we have the consultants that can come in and consult on the business side of it and the strategy side, but then we're still developers at heart. Most everyone in our applications group grew up as a developer. Our founders were developers. Whenever they retired, by the way, they sold the company to the employees. We're an employee-owned company now, and so even though you're talking to a developer, you're also talking to an owner, and that's really cool because we believe in long-term partnerships, and we're not looking to close deals as much as we are to have a meaningful relationship, a meaningful partnership with our clients, with who a lot of times are owners, such as us.
Awesome. And how would one go about setting a meeting with you all to discuss on that side?
Just shoot me an email, and I'll put that in the chat real quick here. But it was on the last slide there that I shut down a little too soon. I promise I won't sell to you, Kinsey. I'll just talk to you.
I'm not scared of salespeople.
I am. I'm not going to lie. No.
Kinsey might sell to you.
Pardon me?
Kinsey might sell to you.
Oh, there you go. That's
Yeah.
happened to me a time or two. Kathy just showed her camera, and she can
I
attest
did.
to that.
Hello, Kathy Graper, Keller, Schroeder here. Since Rob gave me a shout out earlier, I thought I'd come online and say hi. Sorry I didn't earlier. I was still eating my peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch when we started the call. But just want to say thanks. Appreciate the opportunity today. And if you're not scared of salespeople, you will no way be scared of Rob. He is like one of the most laid back guys you could ever talk to and have a conversation with. That's for sure.
There you go. You know?
I just wanted to add, I think Rob mentioned it just to reiterate again, that you don't have to start big bang. I mean, you can start small. You can look at all the initiatives that you have, or the high priority ones like he had on the matrix grid, and just pick a few and start small. Like I said, just to get started, to get the initiatives underway and see the benefit and see the value. And then you can just see, other initiatives that you want to bring on. So I just wanted to reiterate that too. It can be really scary because there's so many things that we want to do in our companies to improve, but we certainly can't do them all at the same time. You need resources with cost and people and time. So just feel like you can start small and build from there.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
in our podcast, the one thing that we mentioned is you always want to be learning. You always want to be continuing to improve, and you're never, ever finished. Right, Rob?
That's right. Never, ever finished.
As soon as you do, something changes. And
That's right.
Very true. Very
Yeah.
true.
so, well, awesome. Thank you, Kathy. Thanks for chatting and introducing yourself. And with that, I think unless anyone has any other questions, I think we will go ahead and start to wrap it up. I'm going to turn it over to Lauren Esser. She is our Director of Programs and Events, and she's going to talk a little bit about some of our upcoming events and opportunities for our partners.
Awesome. Thanks, Dawn. Thanks, Rob. I really enjoyed it. You had a calm and soothing way of explaining everything, so I wasn't as overwhelmed as I thought, you could be when hearing this type of stuff. So you're a great salesman.
No, I'm not, but thank you.
Awesome. Well, I feel like we have so much coming up here at the Chamber. It's going to be a record-breaking busy fall, but there's just a couple events I want to talk about. Not the whole kitchen sink, but we do have our Excellence Awards luncheon coming up in 2 weeks, May 25th at the National Corvette Museum. We're going to honor this year's Athena and Small Business Person of the Year recipients, and we're also going to be announcing our Administrative Professional of the Year award, which is sponsored by Gerald Printing, Randy Reese. So thank you to Randy and the team over at Gerald Printing. We're also going to be announcing our Athena Young Professional. So it's going to be an exciting day. Last year's event was obviously different. It was virtual, and I think we had a few people here at the Chamber, but we're going back to our traditional lunch. So it'll be really great to see everyone and gather. So if you haven't gotten your tickets, please do so. We're 2 weeks out. Another event I'm really excited about that we're working on, and registration is actually open. We're going to start really pushing and promoting it, is Welcome Back WKU. We haven't had this event in 2 years. We did not get to have it in 2020 because of COVID. So after 2 years, we are going to welcome back WKU, and they're welcoming us back. So that's a really great opportunity for the businesses in our community to get in front of these students, new incoming students, existing students. It's a fun day that we have on the South Lawn. So if you're interested, you can find out more information on our website or reach out to me or Dawn or anyone at the Chamber. And last but not least, something that I'm really excited about, I know Dawn is, and Aaron on the call is, we were selected, the Bowling Green Young Professionals was selected to host the State Young Professional Summit in the fall, actually September 23rd and 24th. We are looking for businesses to help us put on and support this event. We've just sent out an email this week with a couple of opportunities to get involved. So we're very, very excited about that. We're going to be having an invasion of young professionals from all over the state, and even some outside states like Tennessee or Indiana. So it's going to be a really fun day. We're going to host it at Sky Pack here in downtown Bowling Green. So if you're interested or just want to find out more, again, you can contact myself or Dawn or any of us at the Chamber. So I think that's all I have. I could keep going on and on and on, but I won't.
Yeah, so just pay attention to your Monday. We send our upcoming events emails, and it's got a lot of details on those, the events that she talked about, and more. So again, yeah, just like Lauren said, the Chamber is opening up. Things are really rocking and rolling. We're gearing up for a fabulous 2021. So with that, I want to wrap things up. And Rob, thank you so much for your time and your information. Anyone wanting more information obviously can contact Rob Wilson directly. And the video. This was recorded and it is available on our YouTube page. So please help yourself to that, if you want to watch this one again or any of our other Business at its Best, they are available for your viewing pleasure. So thanks again and have a great rest of your day.